Hi everybody, welcome to another Fireside Devotional. And I don't know if this is a treat for you or not, but I'm going to do a little 3-part series. So this is part 1, next week part 2, and the week after that part 3. Alright? So if you drop in the middle, you're not going to really keep track of it. So I encourage you to come to all 3 Fireside Devotionals in the next 3 weeks. And we're going to be looking at Luke chapter 4, starting with this week with verses 3 and 4. And we're actually going to be talking about, I don't know if you've heard of it before, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. So tonight we're going to talk about what is commonly referred to as the lust of the flesh. So Luke chapter 4 verses 3 and 4 says this. Then the devil said to him, and this is talking about when Jesus was being tempted by Satan, and he had those 3 temptations. Then the devil said to him, if you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become a loaf of bread. But Jesus told him, no, the scriptures say people do not live by bread alone. Now, this has a correlation back in Genesis when Satan tempted Eve. And at this point, it's Genesis chapter 3, verses 6a, the first part of verse 6. And it says, she saw that the tree was beautiful. So Satan has already presented the fruit, the tree and the fruit. And then she's looking at it. She says, she saw that the tree was beautiful. Now, this is commonly referred to as the lust of the flesh. In 1 John chapter 2, verse 16, it says it like this. For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world. So what the woman saw in the fruit, she saw the tree was beautiful. It was pleasing to the eyes. So if you look in the New King James, it says, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, so the lust of the flesh, she saw it was good for food, right? So the things that I've gleaned from this is this. It's better to be in need within the will of God than to satisfy yourself outside the will of God. God had placed very specific things in place as far as in the Genesis account for this tree. Do not eat of this tree. But then the woman started to rationalize after Satan presented it to her. Say, hey, look at this. And she said, yeah, you know what? That fruit does look good for food. You know, we start to rationalize, and that's when we fall outside of God's will and start to satisfy ourselves our way instead of waiting to be satisfied God's way. Also, someone that this happened with was like Esau. Esau had the lust of the flesh was he came back. He was hungry. You know what? But God had given him a birthright, something that he would inherit because he was the oldest son. But instead, you know what he did? He sold it. Sold it off to his younger brother. Says, hey, you know what? I don't really need this. Doesn't really matter to me. Give me the food. You know? And similar thing with Eve. She said, yeah, I know what God has said, but, you know, give me the food. Another instance is this. When the Israelites were hungry in the wilderness, they forgot God, right? Give us meat to eat. And God said, oh, you want meat to eat? No, I'm going to give you meat to eat. Give them so much meat for a month, they were sick of it, right? When Esau was hungry, he forgot God. He forgot the birthright God had given to him, and he sold it off. And when Eve was hungry, she forgot God and God's rules and ate the fruit. And we have the situation that we live in today, which is sin. We live in a sinful world because of Eve's and Adam's mistake. What does this teach us? It teaches us to be very careful when our flesh has a need as to how we fulfill that need. Or we might be forgetting God in the way we fulfill it, you know? So in this case, you can look at it as this. In this case, when it comes to God's laws, the means do not justify the end. To fulfill what God has said, to stay true to what the Lord has said, the means make a big difference. It doesn't matter what you get to in the end if you do it wrong along the way. Okay? You have to be obedient to what God says. So when your flesh is rising up and you're starting to get those cravings for whatever it might be, whatever it might be, you have to say no. God doesn't want me to do it this way. God has already set out a perfect plan. So remember, the lust of the flesh is not for you. All right. That's all I got for you tonight. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week for the second part. God bless.